Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and we just got back from our trip.
It was exciting.
Voice is a little under the weather.
A little bit of a croak in my throat.
If she sounds a little different, that's why. And as you've heard, with me as always is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voice.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all of our goblins and ghouls out there for another Monday episode. Timstradamus, would you like to hear another joke?
Hit me.
What do you get when you cross a vampire and a snowman?
A vampuddle?
Frostbite.
I'll never get them. For our new listeners, Voice and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for thought.
Well, looks like we have some more shout-outs to make.
Yes, we have 3 new patrons. Our first patron is Devolio, and then Gianna Morrison, and Carl Williams. Thank you for all of your support.
We love and appreciate every single one of y'all. So, Voice.
So, Timstradamus.
What did you brew for me this morning?
I brewed for you a tea that has cinnamon, ginger root, turmeric, orange peel, cardamom, and cloves.
Whoa.
I was hoping for a turmeric kind of chai tea.
I definitely taste the cloves in that.
Is it strong? Too strong?
Oh, it's not bad. It's a 3 out of 5, I think. It hit my palate really hard.
Okay, so I might have gone a little overboard on the cloves. I know I kind of went heavy-handed on the turmeric, and I wasn't sure.
It still tastes great, though.
All right, perfect. Well, it might not be your favorite brew, but let's see if these stories can go ahead and correct that. For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the a-hole for rudely shutting down another woman's 23 female comments about my 23 female engagement ring? Hi, all.
Hi.
I'm not usually a snarky person, so I am feeling a bit bad about this. Could use your opinions. This took place a bit over a month ago. Last month, I, 23 female, was at my friend's bachelorette weekend. Our weddings were very close together. Hers was only a couple weeks before mine. Of the 6 women who were at the bachelorette weekend, 1 was single, 4 of us were engaged, and the 6th was in a long-term relationship. Throughout the weekend, I was intentionally making sure to not comment on my engagement or upcoming wedding. I wanted the trip to be all about the bride. The only exception was when the bride herself asked me about my engagement ring. I told her that the ring, which is very simple with a gold band and a 0.25 carat diamond, was actually from my grandmother. She had removed the original diamond, but left the ring and its setting, which she gave to my fiancé. He then bought a new diamond and had it placed in the setting. The bride and all the other women there commented on how sweet it was that I had my grandmother's ring, except for one, Brittany. Brittany looked at my ring and said it was far too small for her taste. She then started talking about how she would never accept an old secondhand ring, and that she was shocked that I was willing to wear a hand-me-down piece of jewelry. At first, I laughed it off and said I was actually really touched that my grandmother had given it to me. But she then rolled her eyes and responded, "That's great for you, but I'll make sure that my man has to pick out and pay for the ring himself. I feel like it's a representation of how much he values me, you know?" This really rubbed me the wrong way, and this is where I might be the a-hole. Brittany was the only single woman there, so I didn't know why she was being so hostile about my ring. I responded, "Oh, that's okay. You won't have to worry about that for a while." Brittany looked upset and then left to go get some snacks without returning to the group for a while. Most of the women didn't seem to think anything of what I said, but one of them, a close friend of Brittany, pulled me aside later and said that I shouldn't have made Brittany feel like even more of an outsider with my comment. She thinks that I should have been more sensitive to her being the only one there who wasn't in a relationship. So, am I the a-hole?
So, as they say, the audacity. That's kind of what I'm feeling when I heard this story. So we'll unpack this because it sounds like we have a very jealous friend in Brittany who is unfortunately very materialistic as well. And I guess I say unfortunately, but if that's how you want to walk through life, you're allowed to do that.
Everybody has their preferences.
Yep. So we'll start with this. Our OP gets a very nice heirloom from her grandmother that I'd like to think most people would cherish the way our OP did.
Oh, yes.
But unfortunately for Brittany, when she saw this at, I guess, what was it that they were attending?
Another friend's
Was it like a bachelorette
party.
Okay. When you see this ring, why would you then have that disgusting comment to make about anyone's personal item? I don't know why you would take something that is very valuable to your friend, which would be OP in this situation, and make her feel less than for it. And our OP's response to that was, well, the chef's kiss, because she says, well, you might have to wait a little bit longer, so you won't have to worry about that right this second.
Burn.
So I think it's a learning experience for everybody. Do I think she's wrong for having the response she did? No, not even a little bit. In my opinion, OP, you're not the a-hole. I hope that your friend learns a lesson here, though. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it.
I like that. So the consensus was that our OP is not the a-hole. In fact, there's one comment that made me laugh where they described Brittany and they said, I'll bet she could start a fight in an empty room, that one.
Yeah.
Oh, it made me laugh so hard.
That's a good one.
Now, I will go ahead and point out many commenters put out there that the reason why Brittany is being so hostile is because she's the only single one there.
Sure.
And it was probably her way of trying to show that she has value still in a group that is apparently full of women that are in happy relationships if they're engaged or been together for so long or even just about to get married.
I can see that, but it still doesn't give her an excuse for attacking someone's ring.
And that's what every commenter also said was the fact that she's throwing out shade because she's jealous and she's trying to one-up others is just a bullying tactic. And the fact that the OP was trying to be nice to begin with, heard more comments on how rude Brittany was being, she had every right to go ahead and clap back at that point.
Well, all you can hope is that all the parties learn from the experience and grow.
I hope so. If anything, I know Brittany learned a very valuable lesson. Don't start something you can't finish. Well, let's go to our next story and see what's happening in this situation. Am I the a-hole for divorcing my wife for being a stay-at-home mom? I, male 30, married my wife, female 30, around 5 years ago. We had been dating since high school. I loved how smart, ambitious, and driven she was. We bonded over academics and nerd stuff. We had both landed good jobs in the same city right after college. 3 years into marriage, we had our baby. We had decided on sending our child to daycare after 6 months. But when 6 months were up, she refused to go to work and send our child to daycare. Her argument was, if I picked up more work, we can afford a single income household, and she will be saving us money being a stay-at-home parent. That it was better for our child as well. I refused. Daycare is normal. If it was only me working, I would have to work way more hours, be exhausted, and not spend as much time with my child. I said if she was scared about daycare, we can work in different shifts to stay home with our baby, like tag team. She refuses, saying that does not work for her, and as mom, she needs to be with her baby all the time. This caused a huge fight between us. She quit her job. She took care of baby during my work hours and wanted me to take care of cooking dinner on weekdays and cooking, cleaning, and baby care on weekends because stay-at-home moms deserve breaks too. This dynamic really made me resent her. I tried communicating many times. The load of bills and insane work hours, along with not being able to enjoy time with my baby, all deeply upset me. When I was sure she was not going to listen to me, I filed for divorce. The court gave 50-50 custody, no alimony or child support, since I proved it was her own decision to stay home, something I never agreed upon, and her career break was around a year only. I moved back in with my parents, and they have room for our baby too. Meanwhile, my ex-wife is struggling living paycheck to paycheck. My baby stays with my mom when I work. My mom offered my ex the same, but she was so mad at me, she refused and enrolled our baby in a daycare. I refused, pay for it, since she can leave our kid with my mom. My ex-wife and her friends are calling me an a-hole for divorcing her over being a stay-at-home mom and not providing any support. Am I the a-hole?
This sounds like a pretty bitter pill both parties had to swallow. And I don't see any winners. Not for our OP, and definitely not for his ex-wife.
That's very true.
So let's hop into it, because there are some interesting points here that our OP lays out. I think he tells us that he was in a relationship with his ex for, I don't know, it's got to be over 10 years. They met when they were in high school.
Correct. So over 10 years, but they've been married, or were married, for 5.
Yeah. And they had their kid 3 years into the marriage.
Correct.
So that would put the kid around 2 when all of this went down. The divorce happened.
Correct.
Okay. I'm making sure I'm understanding the timeline correctly.
And I know that probably helps our listeners as well.
So he tells us that there was never an agreement that she would ever be a stay-at-home.
At least not permanently. At the beginning, yes.
I mean, obviously that makes sense. You just had the baby. But he said that they never agreed upon her being a full-time stay-at-home mom for their child.
Correct.
That they were going to put it in daycare, and then she was going to continue working after they had gotten to a certain point. That never happened, because when the time came to put the child in daycare, she fought against it. And I guess didn't want anything to do with going back to work, period, because he says that he was trying to offer different alternatives, right? Working on at different shifts to make sure someone was with the baby, so that way they were still saving money. And because daycare does get expensive, especially depending on where you live. The wife doubles down and says, look, I want you to work more so I can spend more time with our child. I think that's gross for any partner to have that opinion towards the other.
Without proper communication.
Like zero.
I think for me, the next step that she takes when it comes to him cooking throughout the entire week after working more, and then on top of that, cleaning and cooking and babysitting on the weekends because she needs time off as well, when he apparently, based on how he's talking, they're struggling financially and he's trying his hardest.
That's all I'm hearing from this story, is that now he's taking on more shifts, more of the financial burden is put onto him, but less of the family time he's getting to share with anybody. And the wife isn't seeing that even a little bit. At the end of the day, your actions have consequences, or in this case, inaction. You got to have communication. Like when that starts breaking around you, you don't really have a foundation anymore. So I think for me, ROP is not the a-hole. Truthfully, you get to spend more time with your kid and you only get so much time. So that's why I don't understand where the wife was sitting there going, just take more shifts, work harder, work more. Are you serious? Why can't you find balance?
Well, the consensus was that our OP's not the a-hole. However, there were quite a few mean commenters who said that our OP was very wrong for their stance on not wanting to be in a relationship with someone who no longer shares his values or priorities. I think that they were quite rude. I will go ahead and focus on the commenters that, for me, provided more input. Many commenters out there were saying, your time with your child is valuable. If you're no longer happy in your relationship because something has changed between the two of you, you have every right to no longer be in that relationship and seek a divorce. And the fact that the courts found in favor of not doing any child support, whether it's from her to him or him to her, and to split custody 50-50, it just goes to show that there was no onus put on him and he didn't do anything wrong. Aside from that, it sounded like she was seeking alimony from him. And that also was found in favor of him to not pay that alimony. It makes me wonder what kind of a bitter person she was to want to go ahead and try and fight for it this hard. Now, let me go ahead and read to you our OP, who actually put an update in his post, but put it in response to a lot of the sexist people in the community. The comments section truly shows how sexist the community is. with most "you're the a-hole" comments calling me broke and asking me to man up. Others saying mom deserves to be with her baby and I am an a-hole for taking that away from them. My marriage was based on equality. I never wanted to be the sole breadwinner. And to everyone telling me mom staying home is best and the thing to do if you can afford it, I was clearly saying we could not. Daycare expense would have been 30% of my wife's salary, 15% of our joint income. I was not even demanding daycare. I offered my mom's help, part-time, different shifts, etc. Anything that could enable me to have quality time with my child too. She refused that, turning me into an ATM and domestic help. To everyone saying I should have given her more time, each phase of childhood only stays for a little while. I missed over a year of my child's life, big moments, smiles, and phases due to this arrangement. My wife did not care or sympathize. It was my duty to provide for her and her right to stay home with our child. Further, I was responsible for fending for myself for food, washing, dishes, and cooking dinner and cleanups every day. And on my only day off, the only day I could possibly spend with my child, I had to clean house, cook all meals, meal prep for the week, do laundry, mow lawn, etc. I only got time with my baby for 6 hours, max 12 hours every week. I was working over 80 hours a week at office and another 28 hours doing housework. What she did was take care of our baby. I'm not dissing her for that, just that I wanted time with our child too. When I realized she would not listen to me at all, and I did not want to miss years of my child's life, I filed for divorce. To everyone saying I am taking advantage of my mother, I do not know how your family is. My parents love my child. I am my parents' only child and my kid their only grandchild. To those who say I am hurting my child bringing in unknowns, my child is having a great time being pampered by my mom and loves the time spent with me. To people who are asking what I won, time with my child, memories with my child, a relationship with my child rather than being an ATM. And to people who say I never loved my wife, I did, until I realized she did not love or care about me, that she only cared about what she needed and wanted, and treated me like an ATM and a slave. It was heartbreaking to realize, but it was not a relationship I wanted to continue with. She took away my time with my child, and that is not something I can forgive easily. I would rather be a present dad with my child. I see this as no differently than if the roles were reversed.
We would be just as upset because you shouldn't be doing that to somebody. It blows my mind where people are accepting that he's telling everybody he feels like an ATM. He works 80 hours a week. And then at the end of that, he has to be the one that carries all of the load through cooking, through cleaning. I don't get it. She's not even meeting him halfway. We're not even talking about someone who's like, look, we'll make sure that certain days get picked up by you. It sounds like it's all on him once he comes through the door, and his wife's single and only responsibility is just to the baby. That can't be the way it works.
Now, I have been privy to experiences where women have had to carry this strain. I can imagine just how difficult it is the other way around. And it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. If you're saying that too much of the burden is being put on one part of the relationship, that should be addressed properly.
Regardless of being a man or a woman, you owe it to your partner to make things balanced. That is the biggest thing here. Create balance in your life so that way someone's not holding it all on their own.
Well, let's go ahead and go into our next story and let's see if we can win a jackpot.
Your stories have been really spicy. I'm scared.
Am I the a-hole? Habitually tardy friend showed up to the casino 2.5 hours late and was pissed. Me and my mates planned a casino outing this past Saturday evening. 3 of us drove together. The 4th said he'd meet us there. The plan was to meet at 7 p.m. The 3 of us arrived at the Eno a little after 7. Fourth friend was not there, so we get some dinner and start gambling. At around 9:30 p.m., we decided to call it a night. Craps table kicked our ass and go home. Fourth friend still hadn't arrived when we left. As we're driving home, I get a call from Mr. Tardy, and he's yelling his ass off about how he's at the casino and we left him, etc. I laugh and tell him, tough luck, you were over 2.5 hours late. He is still pissed at me and reading me the riot act all day, calling me a friend. Some of our friends have taken his side. Important to note, this dude is always late. He has zero respect for others' time. The only reason I might even consider myself being the a-hole in this situation is that he did message us before we left asking if we were still there. I did not reply to him. With how late he was, I didn't think I owed him a response. So, am I the a-hole?
Fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
I don't feel bad about this story. I don't think you're the a-hole at all, even a little bit. You said this guy's habitually late for everything, doesn't respect anyone's time. Maybe learning a couple lessons will teach him how to respect other people's time. When you say you're going to be somewhere, be somewhere. Like, there's nothing worse than someone who flakes. You expect to do something with someone and they're not there. I can understand being like 30, 45 minutes late to something. Traffic happens, things happen in life. But as long as you're able to communicate that that's what's going on, I have no problems with that. Life happens. We can all be a little bit understanding. Should you maybe have replied when he said, hey, y'all still there? Maybe. Maybe take the 2 seconds and go, nope. But it sounds like he was already bitter to that whole thing. So, nah, in my mind, OP, you're not the a-hole. I wouldn't consider that a friend anymore, though.
And the consensus says our OP's not the a-hole. In fact, I have had one friend that has done this. And I think that they are an absolutely sweet person. Love them. Both you and I do, Timstradamus.
Yes, I know who we're talking about.
However, after learning that for them, my time is not valuable, I'm fine with not inviting them to anything. Not because I don't like them, but because I know how I feel will never be respected like that. So it's one of those feelings where I know I can't change my friend, nor do I want to change them like that if they don't want to view my time in that way. However, that doesn't mean I have to deal with it either. Well, let's go ahead and head into our last story and see what you think about this one. Would I be the a-hole for financially cutting off my daughter after she told me not to expect her to care for me in my old age? My 44 male, daughter, 23 female, does not get along with my wife. We have been married 2 years. My wife and I got together when she was at college. My ex-wife doesn't like her, and I have a feeling that is the biggest part of it. My daughter can't really seem to point out what she doesn't like. Just general, she's a stuck-up bee, or she always has an attitude. My daughter recently graduated, and we have been helping her pay bills here and there as she looked for a job in her field. We usually give her around $1,000 a month. Recently, she was at our house, and her and my wife got into an argument over my daughter leaving a mess in the kitchen. As I tried to diffuse things, my daughter started screaming that I was a piece of shit for siding with my wife, and that she was going to remember this when I am older and need her. This floored me. At this point, I just walked away. After giving it some thought, I realized I don't want my future to be in the hands of someone else, especially someone who intends to lord that over me. I would never place the expectation on her to care for me, but I do feel like since she has made it clear that any support from her in my old age would come with strings, it makes more sense to invest that money so that my later years will be paid for. So, would I be the a-hole if I redirect that $1,000 a month into my retirement versus helping my daughter?
We got an interesting one on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. So let's flip over this rock. I 100% do not believe that ROP would be the a-hole for redirecting those funds. I understand that his daughter just graduated and he's been trying to help. I'm not certain when the $1,000 a month started, but I'm sure it's been happening for a little bit, at least over the last couple of years she's been in university or however she's getting her studies done.
Sounds like it.
So he has been a good father and supported his daughter. It sounds like the daughter and his ex-wife have a feeling about his new wife. I think they've been together for 2 years, but they do not like her. Their only reasonings was because they think she's stuck up. I don't know if that's true or not, but what I do know is that when the daughter and the current wife have a problem in the kitchen, when our OP comes in to try to help, for the 23-year-old to go off on her father, who has been helping, but to have had that reaction as an adult to another adult, because at a certain point, it isn't father-daughter, it should be adult to adult talking. You can do it in a manner where it's respectful towards each other. And if you can't have that respect, there's no reason to be around each other. The one time your father may not agree with you, you sit there and look at him and go, when you get old, be prepared.
Scary thought.
That's terrifying that someone, like he says, would lord that over you. I would never let that happen. Absolutely not. My future will not be in someone else's hands. Not how it works. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a whole thing about elderly care and all of that problem that's happening everywhere all the time.
Honestly, just getting old nowadays is scary.
Yep. That's why I'm hoping for AI and being taken care of by robots in the future. So that would have me take a pause and really assess who my child was at that point. I would be very shocked too and taken aback if that's not something that is a normal thing in our relationship, where when we do get in arguments, you guys get to that level of toxicity where you're throwing around crap like that. I would understand that being one thing, and maybe it'd be like some offhanded comment that they made. But this is the thing, especially when you're a smart person. Normally when you're quiet and don't speak, people will tell you everything you need to know about them. That's a very big red flag. Reallocate those funds to where it will take care of you.
Well, the consensus on Reddit, our OP's not the a-hole for wanting to do this. In fact, he actually provided us more information on their family dynamics.
Oh.
Our OP said in one comment, my wife asks her to respect her home, which I don't find unreasonable. My wife asks her to not talk about her sex life, not leave a mess, not to be rude, and not cuss. I don't leave them to hash it out, but my daughter does have a key to our house, and I'm not there to monitor everything. She a lot of the times comes over for food or to do laundry, to which an individual says, if she's not respecting the house rules, it's time to take away that key.
Yep.
Additionally, I think this one really struck me. Our OP says, my daughter and her mom are a bit brass and my wife is the opposite, so they just aren't comfortable. There isn't a particular issue. My daughter burps, farts, cusses, talks about her sex life, and my wife just kind of walks away at this point because it makes her uncomfortable. And my daughter knows that, but that is pretty much it. Your daughter knows that your wife has certain triggers, and in your married home, your daughter is using that to make your wife uncomfortable. I think here, I hope this is a wake-up call to our OP, because your relationship with your daughter will always be your relationship with your daughter. Your daughter's made that very clear on where everything stands, but you decided to marry your wife. There needs to be some safe place for her when you guys are married. For me, I chalk this up to your daughter is rude and entitled, and this is your real first eye-opening instance of how bad it's going to be if you don't put healthy boundaries in place.
Yeah, that's an interesting life predicament to be in, and hopefully, yes, he does learn how to set boundaries that are healthy for him and his family going forward. So, was that our last story?
That was our last story.
Good way to end it off. You found some really
thought-provoking, controversial topics.
Very.
I look forward to hearing our listeners' perspectives and viewpoints on these.
Oh, definitely. Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We regularly post on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We would also love to thank all of our patrons for your continued support. We definitely appreciate it.
Every single one of y'all. We love and cherish. As always, listeners, we look forward to hearing your opinions in the comments below. And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.